Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. So thanks, Rachel, and thanks for doing all the back work to make all these monthly presentations possible. I think it's pretty awesome. I've loved being a part of it. It's kind of an honor to actually present on it this time. So greetings, everybody. My name is Jay Curley, and I'm out here in the Heartland division at the DHQ in Peoria, Illinois. I hope everybody has been so wonderfully blessed with the wonderful weather that we have. It's sunny and 80 here, a little breezy. So I went on a walk and it was great for lunch. So hope you guys are all enjoying that good weather if you're having that as well. So I am currently a regional coordinator for the Salvation Army and have been since February 2016. I am relatively new to the Army and have really appreciated the transition from social services to social ministries. And I think it's a real rare opportunity where you get to actually work where both social services and ministry can come together as one at one place in the workplace. So I feel honored to have that privilege to work for Salvation Army. So I'm also LMFT, which that means a licensed marriage and family therapist for the state of Illinois. And I am also part of a group practice in Washington, Illinois, where I help individuals, couples, and families with a wide variety of mental health and complex relational presenting problems. A little bit about me. I got my associate's degree from junior college locally, transferred to a state school at Western Illinois for my bachelor's of arts and sciences, where I majored in psychology and minored in sociology, and then I went to grad school at Northwestern University at the Family Institute for my graduate training and graduated in June 2011. I've worked on crisis hotlines at Western Illinois University. My first job post grad school was as an emergency therapist or a screening, assessment, and support services therapist to help reduce the likelihood of children getting hospitalized for mental health problems. Did that for a short while, and then for 4.5 years, I worked at a community mental health care facility that's actually only a couple blocks from where I work now at Peoria DHQ, and I was a full-time mental health therapist there. So I prefer to stay up to date with research in the field, and I like to incorporate that up-to-date research into my work with clients, which includes the material, some of which that I'll be sharing with you guys today. This presentation is a mix of recent trainings I've been to, books from my graduate training, and Salvation Army resources. So let's get started with a powerful quote that I came across over the last year. It takes people to make people sick, and it takes people to make people well. It's a really simple but also complex quote, and it was actually from Harry Stack Sullivan, who was a 20th century psychiatrist. So I thought it was really mind-bending, I guess, when you look into it. So each interaction with someone is actually the opportunity to be helpful or show grace, which grace would mean undeserved or unasked, or another link in someone's problem-saturated narrative. So some people can only see their problems, and if you interact with them negatively, you're just another example of the world's an evil place. So brain research actually shows that we are 4 times more likely to notice something bad than something good due to our primal survival days, when we had to scare away things that would hurt us, or we had to go find food so we didn't starve. So it's been quite a few years since that's been taking place for most people. So this quote can be kind of overwhelming, because in that quote, it's basically saying that we are on duty with a huge responsibility on being on the side of making people well in a culture of people that tear each other down, and people are being biologically wired to be primarily concerned with their own individual well-being. So this quote, I think, is really, for me, really influential when I interact with others. It also reminds me of another memorable quote that's kind of absurd, from one of my professors at Northwestern named William Russell. He used to say, "Everything is everything all the time." And I always thought that was such a crazy quote, but it's more and more true every day, just like the quote says. Everything's everything all the time. Everything matters. Nothing matters. Everything influences everything, and you can't really separate anything out from anything else. It's all mixed up, and we try to do what we can do to decipher it. So what you will hopefully learn throughout this presentation, though, will hopefully ease this burden or pressure at least a little bit. So I want to open it up for discussion. If you guys will type in some thoughts and responses. What do you think that prior quote or topics that I just talked about mean for us in Salvation Army?
All right, so again, you would just type those into the chat box and kind of give a little bit of your thoughts related to this. They ask you to repeat the question, Jay.
So just what it says on the screen, it takes people to make people sick, and it takes people to make people well. I want to hear some insights from you guys on what that quote, if we take that as fact, what does that mean for us in Salvation Army to the people that we serve?
Okay, so we've had a few come in. The first is to be present. The other is to give hope to all who enter our doors, that people affect everything, the mind, body, and spirit. It takes all of us and the community to help individuals and get them back to a place for health and wellness, that nobody can do it alone. That we need to have an understanding of how people have been treated by other people and give hope to our clients. Kind of a question to respond to a question: are we being part of the problem or part of the solution? Let's see. Treat others the way we want to be treated. Oh, now they're coming in fast. Hang on. Recognizing the underlying relationships and the systems in place that have led someone to the place that they are now, and how we have to be different than the people they've encountered. Some are agreeing that the quote is very true. We're here to help people and try to pick them up if they are down and get them off their feet. We be careful that we're not making their situation worse, and we're ensuring that we're making it better.
Awesome. Well, I will say I'm blessed in many ways, but I'm blessed for a very interactive audience that has lots to say. I hope that continues on throughout the presentation. About everything I heard come through, I definitely agree with. I think we have a big responsibility for the Salvation Army, and Bill Booth saying that he wanted us to be the light that never turns off for people. If you're down and out, you can always trust that Salvation Army is a safe place to go to. So thanks, everybody. So some food for thought for everybody. So some more questions, some more interaction before it turns into more of a monologue. So food for thought, is it who we are that impacts what we do? is it what we do that develops who we actually are? I want you guys to think about what qualities of yourself do you bring into your relationships with coworkers and clients that you serve in the workplace and outside the workplace? What qualities of yourself do you prefer to leave out of the mix in your relationships with others, especially at work? So think on those for a couple seconds, and I want you to type in again. I want to know what you guys think about any one of those. If one of those questions hits you or you really agree or disagree with any of them, and then tell me a little bit about why, what your perspective is on it.
All right, again, so think about those, and then if you have some feedback, please type that into your chat box. One says, I think it's both who we are and what we do impacts what we do and who we are. So kind of a two-way street. Another says it's who we are, how we grew up, etc. A little bit of both. I think there has to be a little bit of who we are that puts us in this field, as well as our experience shapes who we are. Each person is different. It may be who we are, or it could start with what we do. Some just say who I am, some say who we are. For me, it's what I am, such as compassion in what I do, and that is my frame when I help others. What I believe guides what I do and how I serve others. I think it is more what we do that impacts, it's more what we do that impacts what we do. I have much more compassion now than I did before I started working for the Salvation Army. I'm a good listener, and I do have some good advice to give. I'm not judgmental while I'm here. I don't bring that into the workplace. Both our personality traits are influenced by our life and our experiences as much as our clients, both prior to becoming a helping professional, but also after we learn and grow professionally and personally through our work. Who we are drew us to this work, and our work helps to refine how we define ourselves. Our actions are a good representation of who we are.
Okay.
Definitely both. So a lot of people say a little bit of both, some saying one or the other.
Okay. Awesome, everybody. So kind of like that former quote that I didn't up on the screen, everything is everything all the time. People perceive us and make judgments on us for what we do. Who we are impacts who we do, and they kind of are in like a dual relationship there. What qualities of yourself do you bring in? So some people said non-judgmental natures, trying to be helpful, etc. And then the parts of you that you prefer to leave out. Some therapists in presentations call that your shadow. So, I mean, kind of the vices, the things that you feel like aren't appropriate for work. So maybe your political views, maybe it's maybe you have your own mental health diagnoses, or you're on medications. It may not be helpful to share that with everybody. It could be hobbies that you have that are risky behaviors, kind of, etc. So you got to walk that fine line when it comes to who you are in any given relationship, because being the most of who you are while still being appropriate for the setting is that fine line that we need to try to walk. But of course it could be tricky. So asking yourself questions like, would I share this with every client or just this client? That kind of touches on, well, is my relationship appropriate with this client? Am I too close to them? Am I too guarded? So as long as you would do it with everybody, it's usually a good sign that you're following good ethical guidelines. Does it benefit the client or me more in sharing this? That's always something I hear as a therapist, that clients say, oh, well, I went in for my first appointment with this other provider and they just talked the whole time and I barely got a word in edgewise, and I was the one paying him or her to listen to me. So not giving enough of yourself in your relationships with others creates kind of a sterile or rigid environment that's not very comfortable for the client. Giving just enough of you but not a surplus leads to kind of a mediocre relationship. They know that it's safe, but they're not sure that you care. If you share a little too much, your clients could perceive you as more of a friend and not a helper in the relationship. They might feel like, hey, sometimes he or she blabs on. And then, of course, way too much, like the therapist I talked about. It's easy to see from the client's view that it's about you. It's not about them. You come across as an expert and they feel a little belittled. So, that being said, relational self-awareness, what does it mean to engage in relational self-awareness, and what does it look like? So I love this picture. One eye out and one eye in always. So that always means that we have the ability as humans to get meta, to be able to look and think about what we're doing, saying, how we're interacting with others. And it's kind of like your conscience, like where you sometimes wish, like, ooh, I wish I could take that back, or maybe I'll say this next. And sometimes it gets people into trouble because they're already thinking about what they want to say and not listening to the end of the conversation. So our ability to get meta separates us as humans from the other primates and the other animals. This is where we are actually thinking about thinking. Being a moderator for our thought processes and behaviors. So everybody on the call hopefully knows or has heard before the old adage, think before you speak. Contrary to some or many anomalies, you can think before you say or type if you think about social media. So engaging our large prefrontal cortex of our brain, which is actually what makes us humans. And I want to kind of show something that's kind of neat to you guys, even though I'm not on camera, and I think I can be, but I don't think we need to spend time trying to work that out. So I want you guys to put your hand out in front of you with your palm facing your face. And then I want you to fold your thumb in so it's in the middle of your palm, and then wrap your other four fingers around that thumb. And it kind of makes a fist with your thumb inside of it. So that's actually how your brain is structured. That your thumb that's in the middle is the amygdala, the thing that makes you be able to survive. And then all the fingers from the middle of your knuckle all the way to your fingernails are what is your prefrontal cortex, and that's what makes us humans. It's a lot bigger. That's why we have big foreheads. That is actually what makes us be able to think about thinking. And the more connections you make from that prefrontal cortex to that underlying amygdala, that's your braking power. That's what gives us the ability to put on the brakes before we say or do something that's not real smart. That's what, as parents, we try to help our kids develop, and that's why they make so many decisions. They can't help it all the time because those connections haven't been made yet. And depending on how much you try to change that as you go along will determine your braking power. So have you ever noticed that some people have more ability to filter what they say than others? New brain research suggests that this is within our control. It isn't just who we are as the bottom line, as some people that say, oh, I have no filter, that's just part of who I am. Actually, brain research says that's a choice that they're making. That's not a valid excuse anymore. So the more, like I said, the more linkages from that prefrontal cortex to that animal part of us, that amygdala, that are developed, gives us more of that braking power. So relational self-awareness, the definition is a commitment to an ongoing, curious, and compassionate stance in relationship with oneself in love. So it's actually a state of being. It's a daily process within our consciousness that happens every second, every minute, any hour. It just depends on how much we choose to focus on it. That determines the insight level. So another true statement, human beings are works in progress, and we often mistakenly think that we're finished. That's the biggest human flaw we have is, I like the graphic I have underneath that at any time we're in progress, and we just, in our society, really want to get to the end. We want to be done with this job. We want to be done with this stage of life. We want to go on. And there's actually a lot of really cool research that shows we think that the music we listen now is going to be what we listen to in 20 or 30 years. And then the research that's being done now, longitudinal research, shows that it's definitely not true. Who we are now, we're really tied to. We really have a preference of it. But really long term, we adapt. And the actual chemistry of our bodies change every single day, which means that we're actually a new person with new opportunities every single day that God gives us the ability to wake up. So our brains, specifically the neurons that make up the brains, constantly rewire neuron pathways and also prune the unused pathways. So that's why if we don't practice something a lot, we tend not to be good at it for long. So those pathways that are pruned are kind of like abandoned railroad tracks. They maintain after they're not being used, but then vegetation kind of builds up, and then it's not something that the electrical current that goes between synapses usually is able to flow through very quickly. So we are what we eat, we are what we do, and we are what we focus on. So we always have that option to take an off-ramp in life. We don't have to stay on the freeway that we currently are on, even though that's where the momentum takes us. We always have the option to take that off-ramp if we don't like the road that we're currently on. So another question for everybody. So if we are all works in progress, how should we go about helping others if we don't know all the answers? So go ahead and type in some more ideas, and I'd be curious to hear what strategies or techniques that you guys have that you're thinking about.
All right, so we've had a couple come in with humility, researching or finding the resources, even if we don't know what they are. Sharing what you have learned along the way, doing the best you can, asking questions, using the experience you have and just your presence, showing compassion and understanding of their needs, not giving up on them when they make mistakes, being patient with their process. We need to be mindful of how to improve ourselves, to take time to focus on self-care. Being encouraging, empowering, and gracious, providing support and encouragement, using our listening skills, being sure that we're aware that we are not the experts in our own lives, let alone someone else's. I like that. Making sure to stay up to date on resources and research, and being honest with yourself. If you don't know something, use a team approach, talk to colleagues, bring patience and humility. Just being supportive, letting them know they're not walking alone.
Awesome.
Yeah. some of similar things too then.
Okay. Awesome. So humility, resourcefulness, compassion, patience, all good answers. You guys make my job real easy here as the presenter because you keep hitting on a lot of the things that I would have said if you didn't bring them up. But instead of me trying to be the expert, you guys are experts, obviously. And I also want to consult info from another expert. So I want to look into what the Bible's answer to that question is. So Micah chapter 6, verse 8 calls us to act justly and to love mercy while we walk humbly with God by our side. We're supposed to be making things here on earth as we envision it or know from the Bible it is in heaven. So 1 Corinthians calls us to do everything in love. So that touched on some of what you guys typed in. And then lastly, one of the most commonly known one for those that read the Bible quite a bit or are in Pathway of Hope, their pastoral care piece, or what the Bible says. Matthew chapter 25 calls us to meet human needs, care for those less fortunate than us, and for that which we do for the least of our brothers, or the ones that have the least, our brothers and sisters, we are doing for Jesus himself. And Jesus gave up a lot for us, so there's no limit to what we should be doing to help others. So let's look at that Salvation Army mission statement that everybody knows so well. So the Salvation Army, an intergenerational movement, is an evangelical part of the universal Christian church. Its message is based on the Bible. Its ministry is motivated by that love of God. And our mission is to preach that gospel of Jesus Christ and to, in bold, meet those human needs in his name without discrimination. So it's not a choice for us whether we feel we should be able to help somebody or not, no matter what our preconceived notions or biases may be. So social involvement, William Booth created the Salvation Army for the very task of breaking down social issues like poverty in effort to remove human barriers between the undeserved others of society in order to clear the bridge Christ laid down for us that we could be connected to our God. So being like Christ in our relationships with others is the very first step of opening the door to their potential future salvation. And so I included on there that quote that you guys probably read while I was talking about that, and that's from our Pathway of Hope National Manual. So, compassion. Meeting human need without discrimination requires compassion. Each one of us has a varying degree of this compassion that we have to offer. So we all have the capabilities to show any person at any time compassion, but how much, if we looked inside of ourselves as like a well, how deep does our compassion flow? How much do we have to offer others? Do we feel more comfortable helping a lot of people, or just a few people with a little bit, or maybe one person with a lot, then we feel pretty spent? What about if we add conflict or frustration? How much do you have to offer when you're under fire? Compassion can only go as far as a person's self-compassion goes. So that's what we talked about with what I talked about with the well. That's how deep it goes. We're limited the more the more we know about ourselves, the deeper our compassion wells for others will be. So, the real question, do you still love yourself despite your flaws and imperfections? That's the real question. Think about that for a second. If the answer is yes, you can be you can be compassionate at a high level for others most of the time. If not, your ability to be a compassionate person at a high level with others will ultimately be constricted at some point. That's not saying that if you're really hard on yourself, that you can't be compassionate for others, but you tend to run out of gas quicker. So, relational self-awareness, if we just simplified it down, could be seen as your stuff plus my stuff equals our stuff in the room at any given time. So, your stuff, that would be if you're struggling, if you have a difficult narrative, if you are hopeful, if you have a high level of vulnerability or tendency to be dysregulated because of other people, or if you're sensitive to what they say about you, your dependence on others to feel good about yourself, the strength that you have, your willingness to change for others, or the willingness to help someone else change or teach others. So that's your stuff. The my stuff would be the biases. So the hurt that I carry around, the happiness level that I have at any given day, your ability to be in uncomfortable situations, your relationship history, your predispositions, your skill level at any given thing, your pain tolerance. Maybe you're in constant pain. That really makes us struggle with our patience level. Headaches. If you're in constant headaches all the time, it's going to be real hard to really sit there and tolerate discomfort from others. Maybe you're really impatient. Maybe your tolerance level. So basically the baggage that you carry around that you bring to their relationship. And then our stuff. So that's the sum total of everything we talked about. The you, which would be the participant or the client, the my, which would be me and my perspective in the relationship, and then that interaction and what all that stuff looks like when it's all put out on the table. So I want you guys to think about different relational contexts. So employee-employee relationships. So the different relationships we're involved in require us to wear many different hats and play by different societal rules or norms. Some of us prefer to just be us in all relationships, so I am who I am. This can get us into trouble for not adapting to the rules of different relationships. So you can think about HR problems at work, people being them doesn't mix with the person in the office next to them being who they are. So then HR problems come up, and then policies need to be set to make rules that make us change our behaviors. People actually can get fired for being us. It's almost like a personality disorder at some point when you are so married to being you and not being flexible to change that you can go through many different warnings, and then eventually they're like, well, this person's not who we need in the position, and it could actually lead to you getting fired. So that reminds me of Facebook, the big bolded things that I see out there that have the colorful backgrounds now. That's the new big thing that says, if you don't like me, unfollow me. So I always think that's funny that they're sending that out. Some of us prefer to stick more to the rules of engagement. So those rules at work, the social rules, you don't want to ruffle feathers, so you kind of are a chameleon. But then you risk lacking the presence or feeling connected with the self. So that brings us to emotional intelligence. That will kind of be our baseline for relational self-awareness. You could measure it using emotional intelligence. So most recent research suggests that we have a set point or a start point for emotional intelligence, but we have a threshold for first order change where we can add or subtract to a varying degree, which would be first order change, or have a threshold. But that's kind of like our skill level in sports. I could practice all day, every day, shooting free throws, but I probably would never be as good as some of the good NBA players that have more of a God-given talent. Research has not concluded whether our second order change or more significant levels of change in the threshold for increasing emotional intelligence are possible yet. So you could get better with practice, but can you ever break kind of the limits within yourself? Because some people are more blessed with their ability to have the insight into that emotional intelligence. But the good news is, because young and old are capable of positive change, even if it's first order change, we can always do better with what we're doing. So relational self-awareness research, I'm going to have you guys watch a real brief video real quick. It'll come up for me.
Hi, I'm Dan Siegel, and I'd like to introduce you to the concept of mindsight. Mindsight is a word that I made up years ago when I was in medical school, and I found that some of my professors were not empathic with their patients nor with their students, and I was puzzled as to how a clinician, especially a professor of medicine, would not see the mind of their patients. So mindsight was literally seeing the mind. And as the years have unfolded since then, when I was in medical school and I entered pediatrics and went into psychiatry, mindsight became a concept that was really useful, because when I worked with people, my patients, I found if I could teach them to have more insight into themselves and empathy for others, they actually could create more integration in their lives. Integration, which is the honoring of differences and the promoting of linkages, is actually the fundamental way that we create secure attachments with our children when we have kids that are growing up. It's the way in any relationship we create well-being through integration. And it turns out that integration in our nervous system, for example, in our brains, letting the left and right be honored for their differences and then linkages created, integration even in our brain is the fundamental basis of self-regulation and well-being. So integration is what mindsight creates. And what that means is that mindsight has three components. It has insight into yourself, empathy to understand another person's experience, and integration, both within you, in your nervous system, and between you, honoring differences, promoting linkages in your relationships. So if mindsight is of interest to you, what's exciting is that we explore the whole science around mindsight in a field called interpersonal neurobiology. Mindsight has relationships to other things like mindful awareness, where we can understand that even mindfulness practices that have gone on for thousands of years are promoting integration internally. And as recent studies have shown, mindfulness also creates empathy interpersonally. So mindsight helps us understand how integration, empathy, and insight all fit together. And whether you're looking at mindfulness or something called presence or looking at secure attachment, this mindsight framework allows us to scientifically bring them all together as one.
So, like he said, integration is the key. We know that it's not a nature or nurture debate anymore. It's both and. So thanks, Dr. Siegel, for making a special guest appearance for us. So relational self-awareness, if we visualized it, so name it, connecting it, and then choosing. So you have to name it first to tame it, as the adage is, or another version is God can't heal what you won't reveal. So that would be problems, your negative emotions, pleasure or positive emotions. It's your ability to envision, hey, I'm feeling a certain way, my heart's racing. Is that because I'm worried, or is that because I'm excited? It's somebody's like, oh, well, I feel so worried right now, and it's like, oh, well, actually I was scared first, or oh, actually I'm doing this or that. So it leads us to get more out of the now, like they say with mindful eating. Oh, I really like this, but what do you really like about it? Is there an ingredient? It can always be broken down further. So gaining awareness to what is connected to within us and between us. That's that integration, or that's that connection that I have the thought and then you break it down. So that's connecting the feeling to the behavior or the emotion. And then choosing, after we've made that connection, we are able to use that mindsight, or use that relational self-awareness to modify and choose whether we're going to act on that impulse or not. So deciding, do I need more of this? Do I want less of this? Or is it just right? So questions for further exploration. Strengths. So what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses in relationships with others? How do you develop these? How about weaknesses? Are you really emotionally reactive on a specific topic? Do you get frustrated really easily? Do you have sore spots that if somebody starts talking about them, you get emotionally hijacked? Comfortable talking about certain things like religion, politics, differences, news media, people's hardships. So those topics that they say most people aren't very good at because they're so emotionally connected to, like your political party, or if you're liberal or if you're conservative, just big polarities of differences. And are you able to have a conversation? Can you coexist with each other? Are things emotionally charged? Do you tend to shy away or avoid some things, whether it's because you really like them and you shouldn't like them, or it's really negative and you don't want to talk about it? So your growing edges. So what are the growing edges of yourself that need the most attention right now, that may be raw, tender, underdeveloped, areas of construction in your life that maybe you haven't got to? So what if you need help sorting all that stuff out? Do I feel comfortable doing this self-exploration alone, or do I need help sorting it out? So that would be a perfect opportunity to be able to talk to your supervisor about it if you really notice a pattern over time. Gain more perspectives than just your own, to make sure that maybe you don't need a little extra work in some given area, so that you're not hurting others by your enforcing your views on others. So also, if you don't feel like you have the capability to do that because it's at such a difficult level, you might consider some brief counseling for yourself to be able to get it out and get it sorted out in an objective way. So practical application. I've talked a lot about insight and thinking, but practical application. So where does the rubber meet the road between relationship self-awareness and our relationships with others? Our pumps are primed for thinking about it, but how can we actually utilize this insight that we've gained? So I want to I was going to take a poll here, but I think I'm behind, so I think I'm going to show you the different options, and then I'm going to cheat and tell you the right answer. So what does research show as the most important common factor leading towards change in the helping relationship? Participant characteristics, helper characteristics, relationship between helper and participant, expectancy or hope, or the method or tool that you're utilizing to help somebody. So you guys would have normally taken a poll. I'm going to tell you the correct answer is C. So who we are and how we are with each other is more important than our differences, or how much hope we have, or even how we attempt to solve any problem. So answers to our problems tend to present themselves if given the right opportunity, which frees us from that feeling like we have to be the experts all the time in the relationships with others that we're trying to help. So it's okay not to know how to help someone right away. So research-wise, common factors, This research tells us that the strength of the therapeutic alliance is the key ingredient for positive change. It's key in determining successful or unsuccessful client engagement and ultimately their completion or dropout of the treatment or program. So this research can easily be generalized from therapist-client relationship to any helping relationship. Will the client stop coming to us, or will they continue allowing us to walk alongside them until the end or termination, or to wrap up those loose ends like paperwork, or are they done with us once they have what they need? So it depends a lot on if they see us as a resource to be utilized that could dry up or become unneeded at some point, or a helping relationship where growth possibilities are endless and that they may consider an opportunity to be bridged over from social ministries to even other Salvation Army programs. This is the healing power of relationships. Similar to our relationship with Jesus and God, is what we do with others, or is our belief in God. Is it our ticket to heaven? Is that how we see it? Or is he the way, the truth, and the light for us on our journey? So it's collaborative. I want you guys to think about, what piece do you bring to the picture? Tolerance, judgment, good spirit, a burnout because you're tired a lot, excitement, enthusiasm, exhaustion, humor. What does your puzzle piece look like? Does it fit easily with others? So it's collaborative, but in this case, they are vulnerable ones that may be in crisis, so we should see them more than just a puzzle piece, because they may not be a good fit for one of our programs, but we can still help them or still create a positive relationship with them. And they may have needs we can help with, and they may not. So it takes time to know them better so that we know them more as just their initial presenting thing. So key elements for success, pretty obvious: warmth, empathy, caring, good body language, posture, good eye contact, not staring at our computer or answering our phones when we're meeting with them. Communication's like a dance. The dance floor should have a high level of comfort, a high level of acceptance or positive regard, multiculturally sensitive, an adaptable level of engagement style. So pretty self-explanatory. So use of ourself is the fundamental aspect. Do we try to be more of a lifetime learner? That's what we need to strive for, because we're not an expert in all cases, and we shouldn't come across as an expert, because people want to be helped by people. They don't want to be necessarily helped by experts. So it's easier for us to visualize ourselves as a neutral, caring self, because that is how Christ made us to be. And then if part of us gets irritated or frustrated, see it as a part of me. It's safer to say part of me doesn't feel comfortable right now, or part of me is offended, other than you offend me, I don't like you, those harsh, direct, personal statements. So that helping alliance is a strong bond between two individuals in the helping relationship, which is key to a high level of engagement, good outcomes, and good follow-through. So that would show good attendance, good goal achievement, completion of goals in like the programs like Pathway of Hope, check-ins, follow-ups, but caution, helping alliance with you and your client may not be the same as their support system, their family, their friends. Maybe they're engaged in negative behaviors and they don't want them to be able to come in. So you have to be really sensitive to that, because it may seem like you're getting really far with the client and then you never see them again because then they were embarrassed or told otherwise. So the living helping reliance requires both tears and repairs. It's just like the muscle muscles in the body. You have to work them out, exercise them, they break down, and then they heal better and stronger. See it as relational bank accounts. Just like any healthy bank account, frequent, consistent, even small relationship investments over time lead to relational security and significant long-term growth. Rare withdrawals or asks of a client lead to keep a healthy relational balance and leave a client wanting to be challenged more rather than resistant. So that helping relationship, the helping alliance has been found to have 3 parts: bonds, goals, and tasks. So bonds would be like compassion, unconditional positive regard, etc. Consider having a no-fail humanistic approach, not blaming them for not achieving. Take it as feedback and maybe make smaller steps. Have optimism, have good personal connection. So goals, make SMART goals like we heard from Dr. Winship last month. Create good action steps. Be client-centered or inspired. Make little X's on the way to their big X's so that they can gain momentum. And celebrate client success. How often or how small. That's what the energy will be to keep their hope up. Tasks. So between appointment behaviors, completion of the action steps in your program, appointment attendance, follow through with referrals. So that's what the action actually looks like. So applications to that stage of change. So pre-contemplation, if we get somebody with that, you really want to focus on the bonds and the relationship building. Contemplation, focus on bonds still, be motivational because at least they're thinking about the problem at this point. Preparation, creating those SMART goals. They're not doing anything yet, but you need to have a real good plan so that they feel confident going forward. They get into that sweet spot of action where tasks are important and celebrating those goals. And then maintenance, plan to follow up with that individual regularly or invite them to stop by or call in and provide updates on their progress. Be excited to see them, hear from them. They want to know that you remember them. So that helps maintain those bonds even after they're out of their program or we're not working with them on goals anymore. So then termination or relapse, then you reevaluate and focus on those bonds again. So persistent roadblocks could be cognitive limitations, language barriers, substance abuse, tons of things, and maybe a mental health referral may be required if in this dance that you're doing with the client, it's just not working out. You seem to take 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Don't see it as the client can't do it because we're supposed to be strengths-based. You need to be unconditionally positive with this client. We can't give up on them because we're the one that's trying to help them. We just have to continue no matter what to try to help them. So sometimes we just can't put our fingers on something or we get very uneasy feeling, and that may be a trigger for you to consider a mental health referral. So I apologize, guys. I used up a lot of I've included my references, and I will definitely make the slides available to you guys so I'm not rifling through it as much. An hour, I guess, isn't enough for me to talk even uninterrupted. So we'll open it up if Rachel wants to stay open for a few minutes and
Sure.
Try to...
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's 2 o'clock. I know some of you may have to leave for other appointments and things. We completely understand that, but as long as Jay is available, we can hang out. If there's anyone has any questions or comments for a few minutes, we can definitely go over a little bit for those who are able to stay. If you do have to leave, just again, remember to make sure you fill out that survey when it pops up or in that follow-up email. We completely understand that it's 2 o'clock and that's what we said, but we'll hang out. If anyone has any questions, feel free to type those into the box. And wait a second, see if anybody has anything.
Well, before everybody gets off, if they don't have any questions, I better show my last slide.
All right. I don't think we have any questions. We've lost a thank you. So we will go ahead and wrap up. Again, we will send a follow-up email. It'll probably be early next week. You know, you're not worried about it, with the follow-up information, the recording link, and the slides and all that information for you. So keep an eye out for that. If you've watched this webinar with someone else, that email will only go to those who logged in, so make sure you get that from them, please. And then make sure you fill out that survey when we exit. So big thanks to Jay for his presentation today and all the great information he shared, and thanks to all of you for joining us, and we should be back next month with another topic, so stay tuned.